Learn how to create, sustain, and scale up your print-on-demand business with the latest tips, guides, and strategies to help you start selling and making money today. Welcome to the Sales on Demand Show. And here's your host, Adam Schneider.
Hey guys, this is episode 15 of the Sales on Demand Show. Like the man said, I'm Adam. So, a fine welcome to all of you. Hopefully you liked my little intro music. I had that made on Fiverr. $45. So if you are the kind of person that likes to get work done and you don't want to do it yourself, outsourcing is a great way to get things done. So I'm a huge fan of outsourcing. So today we're talking about trademark law, and this is actually a hugely complicated topic, and there's no way that I'm going to be able to cover anywhere near enough for you to be really versed in this in a half an hour episode, but I'm going to do my very best for you guys. Now, full disclosure, I'm not a lawyer. If you couldn't tell already, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not some kind of legal expert. I just sort of understand this from a meta level, and I'm able to maneuver around these trademark issues, and I'm going to tell you how I do that, because trademark is actually a big deal in print on demand. More so for people doing the merch by Amazon, but of course I don't do a lot of merch by Amazon. So, what is trademark, and what is copyright, and what do the two of those things have to do with doing print on demand? Okay, so I've actually looked up here. I've got the definitions right in front of my little eyeballs, and I'm going to read them out to you, because trademark and copyright law, if you have been selling print on demand, particularly on Etsy, but also Amazon, if you've been doing it for a year or a little bit more than that, it's almost a guarantee that you've run afoul of a trademark takedown, where somebody comes along and says, hey, I own those words. You can't use those on a coffee mug or a t-shirt. And you probably looked at the email and said, how the hell can somebody own a word? Well, yeah, I'll explain that to you. Let's go along. So, a copyright, I'm going to read this from the dictionary definition for you. So, a copyright is the exclusive legal right given to an originator or their assignee to print, publish, perform, film, or record literary, artistic, or musical material, and to authorize others to do the same. Man, let's sum this up. A copyright is something that you automatically obtain when you create a work of art. So, for print on demand, if you create a design, you own the copyright for that specific design, and it's usually protected only if the offending material is an exact copy of your design. So if it's slightly different, the layout's the same, but the font is different, it doesn't count, okay? So a lot of people run into this when they first get started doing this. They look on Amazon, and they're like, oh my gosh, this phrase is being used extensively on Amazon. And they're like, well, I don't want to use that phrase because somebody has a copyright to that. So I want to tell you right now that nobody owns a copyright to a short phrase. You cannot copyright short phrases or titles. And this applies mostly to books and stuff like that. Like, a book is something that you can copyright, right? If you wrote a book, a novel, you own the copyright to that work of art. However, you do not own the copyright to that storyline. So, for example, okay, let's use Lord of the Rings for an example. Let's say that you wrote a book and you had orcs, humans, elves, dwarves, and, well, you could probably use hobbits, I don't know. But you wrote a story, and it was a story of I don't know, similar to the Lord of the Rings story, but not the same. The names of the characters are different, but it's a similar, Frodo, or the Hobbit takes the sword of I don't know. So, sorry, this example is totally falling apart on me here. Um, anyway, the point is that similarity is not enough to make a copyright infringement claim. It has to be basically the same work or close enough that someone would look at it and be like, yeah, that's pretty much the same work. And there's no real line here, guys. This is much makes this so difficult, is that it's not always clear what's copyright infringement and what's not. Anyway, I'll sum it up for you this. You own your designs and somebody cannot use them. So this applies when you go on Amazon and on Etsy, and you will find that there are some a-holes out there who will basically download the picture of your print-on-demand product, and they'll re-upload it and be like, oh yeah, I'm selling this too. Well, they can't do that because you own the copyright to that design. Now, they could make their own design with the same phrase, and they could sell that. Now, trademark is a little different, okay? So I'm actually going to pause this. I'm going to go look up the definition of trademark because I didn't do that, and I'm going to give it to you. Okay, sorry. All right, the definition of trademark, coming from the Google dictionary, I guess, is a symbol, word, or words that are legally registered or established by use as representing a company or product, okay? So, best example, the McDonald's M, the Nike swoosh, the letters IBM, the letters HP. So anything that is like that is a symbol, a word, or an image, it doesn't even have to be registered. It just has to be established by use as representing a company or a product. Now, this can actually be a color, as in the case of certain sports teams. They own the color as it relates to sports. Now, I'm going to really simplify this for you guys. Trademark in print on demand is usually someone goes out and trademarks a phrase, and they make the claim, they say that I should have the exclusive right to use this phrase because it represents my brand. And so in those cases, they will go and they'll file a trademark with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, USPTO for short. So when you hear me say USPTO, that's what I'm talking about. It's a government office that reviews these trademarks and either issues a trademark or does not issue a trademark. So a lot of people have gone out and they have requested a trademark, and it costs like $400 to do this. So, I mean, you got to be fairly serious about wanting this trademark. And they'll go and they'll register a phrase such as classy or boy mom, or, well, there's a ton of different phrases that people have either already registered or are attempting to register. And to be perfectly honest with you, this is a problem. This is a big problem for print on demand. And there is a group that I'm part of on Facebook, and I mentioned this last time. It's called the Trademark Watchdogs. And I'm going to link to the Facebook page in the show notes. I'm not representing these guys, but they do good work. And what they're doing here is that there's people who are sort of watching the trademark registrations coming in, and they're watching for these frivolous trademarks. And let me explain why these are frivolous trademarks. A trademark is meant to be a distinguisher. So everybody, at least anybody who's an American or a Canadian, we know what Nike is, right? We know what NFL means. We know what NHL means. We know what McDonald's is. We know what Toyota and the Toyota symbol. Like, these are easily identifiable trademarks. And when you see these trademark symbols, the words, the colors, it invokes a memory, or it reminds you that this belongs to this business. And they have spent millions of dollars promoting that trademark. They want you to associate that symbol with their business. And so they'll spend tons and tons of money like crafting these logos and stuff like that, just so that when you see the trademark, you'd be like, oh, Toyota, I know what that is. Or Ford, fix or repair daily. I'm kidding. It's actually found on Road Destroyed. Anyway, so that is what a trademark is meant to function as. So it's meant to be a distinguishing mark where most consumers would look at it and say, yeah, I know what that is. And if a company comes along and they make a trademark that's similar in the same industry, so if a car company came along and they made a trademark that was like Toto or something, and it was really close to the word Toyota, or they used a symbol that was similar to the T thing. Well, you know what that T looking thing is. Looks like a cursive T in a circle. Is that the company that owns the trademark could say, no, you can't use that as your logo. That represents us, and it's too similar to our trademark. You cannot use that, and they could legally stop them from using anything that's close. So for NFL teams and stuff like this, like NFL teams will pick a color, and that will represent them. And for merchandise, print-on-demand merchandise, you cannot use trademarks that you don't have either the right to use or that you don't own yourself, okay? So just when you're coming up with designs, and I have mentioned this before, but do not use sports teams, do not refer to sports teams, don't refer to movies, although this is a little bit of a gray area, especially if you're using satire. And I'm not going to get too far into satire and parody because I don't know enough about it to really give you and I don't want someone to come back and say, oh, I got in trouble for doing this. You gave me bad information. Okay, so all the information I'm giving here today is just kind of my opinion of what I've learned over the years, and I'm trying to give it to you as simple as possible. So NFL teams, any sports team, any university, any government office, including all the branches of the U.S. military, the Canadian forces, government branches that are not military, like the Coast Guard, you cannot use or refer to them on a product or in the description of a product, okay? So the bottom line is, guys, if you didn't come up with the idea, do not use it on a product. Now, I know lots of people out there are doing this, and you'll see ads on Facebook. People are using, like Disney and Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. They're advertising products that are just blatantly violating these trademarks. I would not do that. Just because someone else is doing it and sort of getting away with it does not mean that you should do it or that it's okay to do. And it can be frustrating to see this sometimes because I'm thinking, I see like Star Wars trademarks like Yoda or the characters from Star Wars being used on coffee mugs, and I'm like, man, those people are going to get sued. And you can get sued. But what's more likely to happen if you use a real trademark is that the company will just say, take it down. And it'll happen in the form of an email that they'll send to Amazon or Etsy or eBay, and they'll say, this infringes our trademark, take this product down. So you'll get an email from Amazon that says, trademark infringement notice or something like that, and your product will be delisted. So this happened to me a few times. One of the times it happened, it was a legitimate infringement, which I should have known. And the other time was one of these frivolous trademarks, but I still couldn't do anything about it. And it is frustrating, but I'm going to give you some advice to maneuver around this. So I don't want you to sit here and fret about this and say, oh, print on demand is dead because all of these trademarks exist and I can't do anything about it. Well, listen, guys, there's always a way around every problem. I don't care if somebody's gone out and trademarked every single word in the dictionary. I will find a way around it, right? So one of the trademarks, and I'll just share this with you because it's kind of funny. So back in when Donald Trump got elected president, of course, the whole world just went crazy. Some people were very happy. Some people thought the world was ending. And it turns out that it was just kind of business as usual, right? Um, Nobody's living in a FEMA camp, and we're all just kind of moving forward with life. So there was brief talk of Oprah running for president, and I thought, oh man, I should make that into a coffee mug. Oprah 2020. So I made a coffee mug that said Oprah 2020, implying that Oprah should run for president in 2020. Well, Oprah is really hardcore about enforcing trademarks regarding her name and anything to do with the Oprah universe, the Oprahverse. And her company is actually called Harpo, which is Oprah backwards. That's kind of just a funny little trivia tidbit there. But as soon as I saw the takedown, I was like, oh, crap, okay. Yeah, that was legitimate. I shouldn't have done that. But whatever. It wasn't any real skin off my back. It just, the product got taken down. Now, if you get too many infringements, too many notices, Etsy or Amazon could and probably will suspend your account, because infringing trademarks is illegal, right? Legitimate trademarks, well, even the frivolous trademarks, like if it's a registered trademark, just don't infringe it, and you will get your account suspended if you get too many of these infringement black marks on your profile. So the other infringement I got was I made a coffee mug that said Mom of Boys. Now, you might be thinking, well, how can somebody own that? And that's a very good question, because that's basically a description. So if I came up to you and said, hey, I'm a dad of a boy, that's literally describing who I am. So the problem with these trademarks that people are putting up, and the trademark in question for this one was boy mom. So somebody's trademarked the phrase boy mom. It's a very controversial trademark. It is discussed all the time on this Facebook page. It's already registered, so it's very difficult to get these trademarks canceled. It can be done, but it's difficult to do. And honestly, is it worth it? Probably not. And yeah, so the frivolous trademarks, here's how you know a trademark is frivolous. If it's descriptive. So you can't trademark something that says like made in the USA, because that's a description of a characteristic of something. That's it. Like you can't trademark something that describes what you're selling. Now, this trademark did slip through, and that's because the government is doing the trademark registration, and the government is notoriously terrible at doing these things. So some people have been trying to get these trademarks through, and they're getting them through, but not so much anymore. Now, what the trademark watchdogs is doing is that we, and by we I mean the people on this Facebook page, of which I'm a member, but I'm not actively participating in it really that much, because I don't have a lot of time. But whenever they see a new trademark application for something that is clearly frivolous, so like classy, savage, anything to do with like brides, or let's just read one here. So, sorry, I'm just reading all the Savage AF, which is an abbreviation for savage as the F word. Yeah, it's a new trendy thing. Home brewed, that's someone trademarked that. I was trying to look here, just trying to give you an example. Oh, grace, not perfection. So somebody's trademarked that. Now, these are descriptive things that fail to function as actual trademarks, meaning that they don't distinguish a business from someone else, from some other business. So very clearly, people are trying to take advantage of the trademark system to be the exclusive seller of a popular phrase. And I know people have tried to trademark cat mom, dog mom, cat dad, and stuff like that. and they have been shot down, thankfully. But once in a while, a stupid trademark makes it through the system, and we all just collectively shake our heads and say, how the heck why did you prove that? So it's frustrating, and I know. And if you sell it on Etsy and you're looking for cool phrases to sell, you're probably going to run across one of these trademark phrases, and you won't even know it's trademarked, because sometimes people have a trademark application in, and it just kind of slips through, and you don't maybe you put up the product before it was trademarked, and then someone trademarked it, and now they have this legal hammer, and they smash you with it. So you have to take the product down. But listen, I'm not here to make you panic about trademarks. I'm just here to give you some friendly advice that you should try as much as you can to avoid violating these trademarks. They are stupid, and the system is broken for sure. But you know what? There are still lots of things that aren't trademarked, and one thing I like particularly doing is I like to use longer phrases, because it's much harder to trademark longer phrases. People are trademarking these sort of short phrases, and it's like maximum of 4 words that someone's trademarked, although I've seen some that are longer, but most of these frivolous trademarks are 1 or 2 word phrases. But the longer the phrase, the more difficult it is for someone to use a takedown notice. So if you wanted to make a coffee mug for someone who's the mother of a boy, I would look for a longer phrase that describes what it's like to be the mother of a boy, and just make the whole thing about that instead of just using mom of boys. Make it sort of related to being a mother of boys. Like put a picture of a dirty boy or something on it. Just be creative, right? Don't just copy what other people are doing. And don't use the phrase boy mom, but make it clear that what you're doing is you're using, you're relating to mother of boys. Now, you can do all of these things and someone still might try and take your product down. And to be perfectly honest, like most of these takedowns, they're just frivolous. They wouldn't hold up in court. But Amazon and Etsy is not court. If somebody owns the trademark to a phrase, even if it's frivolous, and they file a takedown on you, Amazon will take your product down, because Amazon is not going to get involved with these disputes. Now, there is a way to fight back. You can wait a bit. I forget how to do it, but you can file a counterclaim, I think. And you could say, know what? I'm not infringing. You have to sue me. But generally speaking, I just don't see it as being really useful to do. So I'm just going to leave you with this little bit of advice here. So I'll summarize some of the salient points here. So number 1, copyright is not trademark. Okay, you cannot copyright short titles of books, or short phrases. So if you've got a quote that comes from a book or something like that, generally speaking, the short phrase is not copyrighted. However, I would still not use book quotes, because you didn't come up with that, right? And it just doesn't seem that it's wise to use something that you didn't come up with. So profiting off of someone else's work, I think it's immoral, and I don't do it. So I don't refer to works of art or books or anything that are currently, if the author's still alive or whatever, or music that, the author's still alive. Only things that are in the public domain are fair game. So anybody who's been dead for 70 years or something like that, I forget, but there's a time frame. So all of the old authors, and music like Beethoven, stuff like that, that's all public domain. So if you're wondering what public domain is, I'm not going to explain it to you here, but public domain is when a trademark or a copyright expires it means that that work of art is basically everybody owns it, and anybody can use it. So that's public domain. And I would go ahead and use public domain stuff. It's good material, and people will buy it. I've been using quotes by old saints, like Catholic saints, and once in a while somebody buys one. It's not a huge seller, but you know what? A couple sales on a product is good, and I think it's fair game. It's not even that I think it's fair game. It is fair game. Because, these are people that lived hundreds of years ago, and they don't own the copyright to their quotes anymore. They don't own a trademark to anything. It's public domain. So that's fair use stuff. Anything that's like a sports team, do not touch that. Anything that's a movie reference, don't touch that. Anything that's like a song title, especially for a very popular artist like Michael Jackson or Prince or, well, anybody that's, really popular. Just don't use their stuff. Don't try to make money off of their popularity. That's immoral, right? And it's also illegal. So I'm going to give you a website here, and you can go. There's going to be a link in the description for the United States Patent and Trademark Office, and I might have mixed that up a bit. USPTO or USTPO, I forget. Anyway, there will be a link in the description, in the show notes, so you can go. And what you do is you go, and if you got a phrase you would use for a print-on-demand product, type in the phrase or a portion of the phrase. So, boy, mom, or classy, and then search, and it'll bring up all of the either registered trademarks, the old registrations, the old applications, and anything that's ever been done with relation to that trademark. So just because something appears in a search doesn't mean it's trademarked. You got to look at the results, and it'll tell you if it's live or dead. If it's live, it's a trademark. You can't use it. But you also got to look at what it was trademarked for. So there's different categories. I know, I'm throwing all this information out here. I'm doing my best to really simplify it. So if it's trademarked for clothing, jewelry, or coffee mugs, or paper products, those are the four, the big print-on-demand trademark categories. And basically, even if it's not trademarked for the category that you want to use, I just wouldn't even bother, because these trademark, and we call them trademark trolls, people who trademark these phrases, they'll come after you, even if you're not selling a product in the category, and then you waste your time fighting with these people when you could be doing something more productive, like finding more phrases to use on designs. There are thousands, and there are thousands that are not trademarked, and they're fair game to use, and I'm using tons of them. I have like 5,000 products on Amazon. Not all of them are different phrases. Some of them are the same phrase with a different word or a different font or something like that, but I have managed to find lots and lots of phrases, and I have a spreadsheet with hundreds more that I someday will sit down and make into more products. So that's it for Trademark for now, guys. If you have any questions, send me an email, adam@salesondemandShow.com. You can also visit Sales on Demand Show and leave a comment on a episode, and I'll see that and respond to it. The podcast is growing. It's not growing like a hockey stick, which, of course, is because that's, usually for a podcast or something like that, you got to be going for a year before people start to really take you seriously. But I aim to make this the premier podcast for print on demand on generally. So I want to be the expert, and I'm doing everything I can to make myself the expert on this, guys. I'm not there yet, and that's okay. So if you're listening to the show and you're like, hey, listen, I've got some advice, I got a question, I would like to comment on the color of your hair, send me an email, adam@salesondemandshow.com. I was using a different email address before. That email address is still valid, but I got a new one now. So I'll just leave you with a quick update on my own sales and kind of what I'm doing now. So I am still working on a course, and it's going to be huge. This is a big project for me, and it's kind of intimidating, to be honest with you, because sometimes I look and I think, like, who am I to create, a course that somebody would buy? I mean, I'm making good money on this, but I'm not an expert, and I don't know. It's called imposter syndrome. Look it up. It's a real thing. Don't ever undervalue your own experience. But I want to also encourage you to never stop learning. And not just on this podcast, but look and watch what other people are doing print on demand. I don't have a YouTube channel quite yet, and I need to make one and start making some videos. But my God, I have enough on my plate already. Don't know if I have time for that. Someday. So I have been recording a case study, and I'll just briefly tell you kind of what I'm doing. I'm going from zero to FBA. And if you know what FBA is, it's fulfillment by Amazon. So I am making a video that shows me coming up with an idea, listing it as a product, listing it to a platform like Amazon and Etsy, and then scaling that up so that I send in, I get to the point where I'm sending that item in for fulfillment by Amazon. And my goal is to sell one a day. And that's just at the ordinary time of year. Like, a lot of these things will sell really well during the holidays. But if you got a product that's selling one a day, that is a good product. And that's what I'm working towards. I want to find 3 products that sell one per day. And I'm doing a case study where I show how I'm going to do it. And I've done this a bunch of times already. So I know I can do it. But I want to show you guys how to do it. Now, in order to see that case study, you have to buy the course. And it will be on sale probably closer to the summer. There is a lot of other training coming out that some of my mentors are putting out, and I don't want to interfere with that. So keep an eye out for that, guys. I'm going to be offering ongoing coaching as well, so that you can sit there and I will literally look at your business and I'll say, you should do this, 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 and this. And you know what? That kind of thing is way more valuable than even just a bunch of videos on how to do something, because I paid once $1,000 to go to this. Last year I went to a conference called Start, Sustain, and Scale. And the person who put it on was Don Wilson, the owner of GearBubble.com. And it cost me $1,000 to go. And it was worth every penny. And one of the most valuable things that he did is he sat me down in front of 100 other people and he said, let's analyze your business. And he called it a hot seat. So my hope is to do some hot seats with you guys. And I think the hot seat thing and the business coaching, I think that's going to be super duper valuable for you. And it's probably going to be valuable for me because it keeps me focused on this business. It's very easy if you're a work from home kind of guy to just sort of get lost in the clouds. And anybody who works on their own or is a writer or does things where you're just sitting in front of a computer, it's just really easy to sort of just get lost in your own head. And that's not always good. Like, it's good to be focused, but you also need to be learning. And in order to learn, you have to have contact with people, and they have to be smarter than you. And I'm not the smartest guy around, but I plan to bring information from all of the other smart people that I know and condense that into a really effective teaching program. And I am also running some experiments. I want to push the limit of what you can do on Amazon with print on demand. So I'm not satisfied with what I already know. I'm working to improve both my processes and scale up my business. So all of the results of those experiments are going to be part of this. Now, if you just want to get started and you don't really know what to do, I highly recommend that you join me and 4,000 other people at the Low-Hanging System course. This course was put on by Rachel Raffay, and she is smart. She's not tech smart. By her own admission, she's not very techy, which should be encouraging for you because I know a lot of you guys out there listening, you're probably not very techy, right? You look at a computer and you're like, oh, if I move this little plastic thing, the pointer on the screen moves around. But when it comes to doing, really technical things like connecting integrations and stuff like that, you're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Well, Rachel Raffay has put out a course called The Low-Hanging System. I have mentioned it before, but if you click the link in the description, you can watch the video and join the course. And come and hang out with us. We have a great Facebook page and we encourage each other. And it's basically how I got started doing print on demand. It was well worth the money. And you know what? Every year I probably spend between $5,000 and $10,000 on training. And I intend to keep doing that because I'm never smart enough. So that's it, guys. Thanks for listening to episode Canes 15 for you non-French people. Join me next time as I talk about a something. Don't know what yet, but there's so many good things to talk about. And who knows? So, that's it. Have a good one. Cheers.